Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In this lesson, we are going to be talking about pivot tables and pivot charts and everything that has to do with pivoting or pivot in Excel. Sorry, excuse me, pivot. Now, what does pivot table and pivot chart means? Pivot table is more or less like our typical table in Excel. Remember, if we want to convert our data set to table, we select a particular range of data that we want to convert to table, or we can just, or if we want to convert the whole data set into table, we can just press Control A, where Excel is going to select everything, and then we Control T, where Excel is going to ask us, does our table has an header? Then we get to choose whether our table has an header or not, and then we hit enter. We customize the table name. We give it a specific name, or we assign a name to it as we see fit. But pivot table is a little bit different. Not so different, but a little bit different from our ordinary table. Now, pivot tables are used to summarize your data, and we can also use it to create charts. And just like the shortcut we used in our pay special, if you remember our pay special lesson, if you don't remember, you can easily go back to the pay special lesson and then go through it again. But for our pivot table creation, we'll select our data, just like we always select the range of the data we want to use in our anytime we want to convert our data set to table. We select the data and then we press a keyboard shortcut of alternate N and V, alternate N and V. And then we are going to see a pop-up table where Excel is going to ask us for the information, and then we are going to follow the information. Now, there are so many things that we can use our pivot table for, but basically it is used for summarizing our table. And then from our pivot table, we can create charts to further explain any information that we want to bring out from our data set. In creating a pivot table, we select the field, and then there are different fields on different fields of option for a pivot table. We have about four fields of options. We have the filters, where we can use a particular column to filter a set of information that we want to derive. We have the columns field, where we can drag and drop our any column or any information that we want to stand on the column space, and also the rows. Then we also have the values. So without wasting most of our time, let's go and see what we are talking about. But before we go into that, we have to pre-process our data. We need to pre-process our data. We need to go and pre-process our data. And this is the data set we are going to be using. You will see the data set there, data set 4A. The data set 4A, Excel for analytics, pivot tables. Thank you very much. I will see you in the next video. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So we are going to continue from where we stopped. And in our previous video, I mentioned that before we use our data set for tables to create pivot tables and use it further to create pivot charts, we need to first pre-process our data. And like I have constantly said in this course, that as a data analyst, it is very, very important for you to make sure you get to know your data, get to know the data set you are working on or you are about to work with. You get to know all the information that the data set contains, and by information I mean every columns in the data set. You need to get used to every columns in the data set. You need to know what each column stands for, the information that it contains, and you need to like make some notes on the irregularities or on the data sets. You check what needs to be checked and what you need, whether you need to create an additional column, whether you need to delete some columns, whether there is blank columns or empty columns, whether there is non-columns, whether there is non-printable characters. So every one of these things are the things that you need to check out before you even proceed to your task. You need to pre-process your data. You need to give your columns the right format if needs be. If it is not in the right format, you need to put it in the right format. For instance, if you look at this particular column here, it's a date column. And then you will see here on the format that it is a date column, which means it is in the right format. But this data set that we are about to use is pretty clean. It is pretty well organized and well pre-processed, but it still doesn't take away the fact that we need to still like carry out some tweaks and then make some customization to fit into the task that we are about to do, to fit it into the task that we are about to do. So without wasting much of our time, let's start. The first thing, normally, ideally, for me, as a data professional, one of the first things that I always do if I have a data set like this, one of the first things I always do is to split the date column. And don't forget, we've been doing that in the course of this lesson, of this course. So the first thing I'm going to do is to like split or separate this my particular date column to have my day, my month, and my year separately. And by doing that, I'm going to insert a fresh column. I'm going to insert 3 fresh columns. Insert. I'm going to do it 3 times. And then I'm going to have this to be day, month, and year. Date, month, and year. So by using my text function, I'm going to say equals to text. And then for my day, I'm going to say d into d, which is the first day is Tuesday, second day is Thursday. I will double click for Excel to autofill down for me. I will do the same thing for months. It's going to be text A2 month. Text IYY. Then so you can see I have extracted my date column. I've extracted and separated my date column, as I might be needing some specific information that is going to be particular to years or months or day for the questions that I'm going to be solving in this particular data set, Next thing that I'm going to do now is part of the data preprocessing or the data organizing process before I proceed to my task. Another thing that I would like to do is to, you will notice that on my customer gender column, I have M, which is denoting male, and I have F, which is denoting female. But I don't really like it looking like this. I prefer mine to be written in full. That is, for male should be MALE. For female, it should be FEMALE, rather than looking like this. So in that regard, what I'm going to do is that I am going to use my, don't forget, there are so many ways that we can do this, but I'm going to make use of my find and replace to make correction to this or to make adjustment to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this whole table. I'm going to select this whole column here by holding down my shift, my control, my shift, and then my down button to select everything. And then the next thing I am going to do is I'm going to come to insert. Sorry, I'm going to come to home, my home tab here, and then under my home tab, I'm going to come to find and select under editing. I am currently using the latest Excel software, Excel 2004 or Microsoft Office, Microsoft Access 365 or Microsoft Office 2024, I mean, anyone you choose to use. That is why I'm not finding this find and select as written like this. I find it as an icon here. It's one of the cool upgrades that Excel just, Microsoft just dished out. So I am going to use my replace. And then what do I want to find? I want to start with the male first. So I'm going to type M. And then what do I want to replace it with? I want to replace it with MALE. Now, I still need to make sure Excel do exactly what I want it to do, right? So I'm going to click on this option. And then I'm going to check out some things here. The first thing that I'm going to be checking out is Excel is asking me, where do you want me to find M and then replace it with male? Is it within the sheet? Yes, it is within the sheet. Yes, I want you to search by rows. Yes, I want you to look into formulas. In most cases, we don't touch anything that is here. But you see these two guys here. Excel is asking you, do you want me to find M and replace it with male when I match? That is, if this match case means, that means everything in that particular cell has to be a single thing. That is, it has to match a capital letter or a uppercase M for me to replace it with male. That is, that cell has to contain an uppercase M for me to replace it with M. So I'm going to click on match case. Now, the second thing is match entire cell content. Now, do you want me to replace any cell that the only thing it contains is uppercase M or capital letter M? Do you want me to replace them with male? Then I'm going to check this one too as match entire cell content. It is very, very important to note this if you want Excel to give you the results that you most desire. So after doing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on replace all, and then I'll give Excel some little time to do its magic. And then you can see Excel says find 58,312 replacement has been made. Then I'll click on OK. And then let me close and come back. And you can see now that all of my M have been changed to male. I will perform the same thing for my female too. So I'm going to come to my editing. I'm going to come to replace. And then what I have there is still there before. I'm just going to clear it and put F. And then I'm going to adjust this and put female. Female, sorry. So I'm going to hit replace all as well. Then give it a few seconds. And you can see that Excel can find about 54,724 replacements has been made. Then I'll click on OK. Then you will see that I now have my customer gender written in full. This is how I like to work, because I like it when my analysis and my visuals and everything that I do as an analyst is well organized, and then it is well interpreted, so that for an ordinary layman or anybody that does not really understand what is going on can easily relate with it just by seeing my analysis and my data. So that being said, and that being done, so another thing that I need to really note quickly is this our day, month, and year. You will notice that they are all formatted as date. Yes, simply because they were extracted from a date column. So that is very, very important. Please put that in mind. So let's check through every other item on the data set to see what, okay. We have some columns that needs to be formatted properly. We have some columns that needs to be formatted properly. First one is the unit cost. Unit cost, unit price, cost, profit, and revenue. They are all they are all columns that is related to currency, right? They are money. Let me put it that way. They are money, right? But you will notice that they are still currently formatted as a general format. So what we are going to do now is we are going to convert each and every one of these columns. We are going to format them as we know they fit or they are supposed to be or they ought to be. So the first one that I'm going to do is the unit cost. I'm going to select everything and then I'm going to come to my number here. Then I'm going to attach a currency to it. Now I want mine to be in dollars, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come a little bit further to number format here. Then I'm going to come to currency, yes, which is there. And I'm going to select my own symbol. Let me say a Canadian dollar. And then I'll remove decimals. There, I'll remove decimals. Then I'll click on OK. Or better still, I can just change my dollars to United States like this. And then I'll remove the decimals. So that's being done. I can do the same thing for the rest, but instead of doing it one by one this time around, I can hold down my control and then I'll select, and then which means I want to do it in multiple ways. So instead of me to come to my general, I can just come here, choose my United States, decrease my decimals because they are all rounded values. So that is done. And then you can see that my order quantity is formatted as the number, as in number format or general format, which is still good by me. Then you will see during the course of these questions that we are going to be answering here, we're going to be using this our data set, using pivot table to answer these 10 questions. So during the course of these questions, we are going to be adding some additional columns to our data set based on the questions demand, right? So that for now, this is our data pre-processing. We have processed our data, we have adjusted the things we need to adjust, we have added the columns that we need to add. So thank you very much. I'm going to see you in the next video where we are going to continue. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So without wasting much of our time, let's dive into our case scenarios for our questions or the questions that we are going to be solving using our pivot tables. So the first question here is that, before we do that, we need to convert our data set to table, like the normal conversion that we always do, right? Normal conversion we always do. So I'm going to press on my Control A to select everything, and then my Control T. Control T, yeah, my table has headers because I want to create, and then this is the range. That is, the range is everything from A1, from cell A1 to cell S 113,037. So I'm going to hit on OK. Then I'll come to my table design. You know, creating a new table is going to create an additional dialog tab here for you. So I'm going to come to my table design and then I'll name my data set as usual. I'm going to name it data sets. I'm going to name it data set and then I'll hit enter. I'll hit enter. So having done that, I'm going to open a new, I don't even need to open a new worksheet. So now to solve my first case scenario, the question said, give me a little time for my Excel to save, for my file to save. So So my first case scenario here is which product, let me make it even bigger so that it's going to be more legible. Okay, so the first case scenario said, which product reaped the most revenue? Which product reaped the most revenue? Most times, this is how our client's request comes, right? This is how our client's request comes. So we need to, like I said, don't forget, you need to first of all understand your client's request. You need to first of all understand your client's request before proceeding, right? You need to understand what your clients ask you to do, understand the question, digest it before you proceed. So according to this question now, the question is saying which product reaped the most revenue, which means which product generated us the most revenue. And from the question, we can see, we can also determine the columns we are going to be using to answer this question. From this question, we see that we have product, and then we are going to be using revenue, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my data set, and then don't forget from our material here, we said the shortcut for creating pivot table is alternate plus n plus v, right? So let me go back to my data set here, and then I'm going to press on my alternate n and v, that is alternate nv or alternate vn. Oh, sorry, I have to select the O, I have to select my data. So alternate nv. So you will notice that Excel is asking me that where do you want to insert your pivot table from? I want to insert it from this my table or my range here, right? I want to insert it from my table or my range, so I can just click on this table range, and then you will see Excel is going to bring out a dialog, an option for you that, okay, where is the range? My range is from my data set. Don't forget I have converted our data set to table and I have renamed it as data set. So the next thing is Excel is going to ask you that where do you want me to now place this pivot table? Do you want me to place it on a new worksheet, or you want me to place it on an existing worksheet? Now we have two worksheets on this, we have two sheets on this worksheet. So in most cases, we have to always choose the new worksheet for organization's sake, for you to make your work organized. So I'm going to click on new worksheet. So I'm going to just click on OK. And then you will see Excel opens a new worksheet for me, right? Voila. So you will notice that I now have a new worksheet here. I have a new worksheet. So what I am going to do now is before we even proceed to answering our questions, let me take us around what is going on in a pivot table. Now, we have so many things we can do on a pivot table. We can also customize a pivot table, just like we customize our normal table. We can customize our pivot table name, right? We can customize our pivot tables and do everything we want to do. So I can just come to my and then creating a pivot table also gives us two additional tabs. We have the pivot table analyze, and then the design, where under the pivot table analyze, we have so many options that we can use. And also under the design, we can do some customization, like some formatting, visual formatting. So let me go back to my pivot table analyze, and then under my pivot table here, I can customize my pivot table name. I can name my pivot table, right? So for this one, I can say case one pivot table. So let me see if I hit enter. Yeah. So this is my case one pivot table. So now the next thing is we have so many option sections under our pivot table analyze, which is the first one is the active field, the group field, where we can insert slicer and we can insert a timeline. We can refresh our data. If we make any changes to this particular pivot table, we can always refresh it, and then it is also going to like reflect from our columns here. And then we have the data source, we have the actions that we can perform. Here we can clear, we can select, and then we can also move the pivot table to a new sheet. Also, another thing is some calculations. We can perform some calculations if you are going to be doing a lot of it. And then we can insert a pivot chart into our pivot table also, or we can create a pivot chart from our pivot table. Then we can recommend Excel can recommend pivot table for us based on a complex data. Then we have these three fields here. Now, these three fields here is what I'm going to talk about next. The first one is the field list, which is everything that we have here. Then we have the buttons, and then we have the field headers too. So if I want to make these guys go away, I can just cancel from here, right? If I want to display them back, I'm just going to click on my field list again, right? So now let's take it one by one. From the pivot table field, this is where we have all the columns in our data set. You can see of all the columns we have in our data set. If we have an additional table, that is an additional worksheet that you want to add to, you can just click on these more tables, and then you import them and it reflects, right? So we have our date, the day, the month, the year, and every other columns here. And then the second thing is the fields. Like I've showed us from our material here is the field, right? We are going to be making use of this field a lot because that is going to be part of our focus, where we are going to focus our how to answer our questions, right? So without wasting much of our time, let's go and solve this first question here. So, like, don't forget, the first question is which product raked the most revenue? I'm going to go back to my sheets too. Also, before I proceed, let me, for organization purpose, right? So let me just rename my sheet here case number 1. Let me name it case number 1. Or name it case number 1. So question said which product raked the most revenue, and then we know that we have different columns here. So I'm going to be selecting on I can mark my product. I can mark it, and then you will see it. Excel is going, the moment I check the box, Excel is going to place it in the field. Yeah, in the field here where it sees it to be appropriate. Except otherwise, you have some specific tasks or some specific things to achieve, right? Always check rather than drag. We can also drag. I can drag, right? I can drag and I can check too. But by checking, Excel is going to place it where it feels like it needs to be. But we can tweak it based on our preference. So I'm going to be, I check the product, and then the next column that I need is my revenue. So I'm going to also check my revenue. Now you can see that on my pivot table, every of my product has been categorized based on their revenue. But this has still not answered my question, really, because the question said which product, that is one single product that has the highest revenue. Now, if you have a large data set like this and you want to like work as a professional, you need to also consider giving a customer satisfaction to your client, right? So if you have thousands and thousands and thousands of data sets like this, and you know that you are to just bring out a single one, normally ideally what I do is, if I have a large data set like this, I can do like a top 5 or a top 10, but still while still making sure that my task is being done. Like I still stick to what I'm asked to do. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do like a top 5 or a top 10, or let me just do a top 10 of this. So how do I do a top 10 using my pivot table? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my row labels here. You notice that it's only row labels that has a drop down, right? Because it is the only one that is formatted in text or in general. So I'm going to come to my row labels here. I'm going to click on the drop down here, and then I'll come to my value filters, right? I can come to my value filters, and then I'll come down here and see different options. But the option I'm sticking to is top 10. So under this top 10, there are so many things that we can do. We can do bottom 10 too. I can do bottom 10, but let me just stick to top 10. So instead of me to do top 10, I can just do top 5. I can do top 5, and then top 5 of what? Yeah, items, not percentage. Now, by what? I want to like view this product by their revenue. So I'm going to leave it as revenue, and then I'm going to hit on OK. And then the moment I hit OK, you will notice Excel has like reduced and bring out the top 5 revenues for me. But these guys here are still not sorted, really. So I'm going to come to my revenue here. I'm going to like select everything except the ground total, because if I select the ground total with it and then I want to sort from the highest to the smallest, which is what I'm looking for, Excel is going to also sort my grand total for me, which is 16,000, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select only the products and their revenue, and then I can just come to my home field here. I can come to my home field here, and then I will see under my editing, I'll click on here, and then I'll see sort largest to smallest or sort smallest to largest. This time around, I want to sort from largest to smallest for me to see the product that performed the most in terms of their revenue. So I'm going to click on largest to smallest, and then you can see the product that tops is my Rode 150 Red 62. So I'm going to select it, and then I can make it bold for it to be significant, or so I can make it bigger also for clarity's sake. I like my work to be neat. I like it to be neat. So also, let me move this my pivot table down a little bit. So I can move it down a little bit. And then let me, for indication purpose, let me type the first question here. So I can just say case number one, which is which product ranked the most revenue, right? So I can just come here also and say this is top 5, so I can just say top 5 products with the most revenue, right? So I have just answered my client's request. My client says I should help them find out which product to rake the most revenue, and then from this you can see that Rode 150 Red 62 rake the most revenue. I can just put a little insight here by saying that insight according to the data, Rode 150 Red 62 is the product with the most revenue with a total sum of $3,829,416. This is how to answer a question effectively as an analyst, right? This is how to answer a question effectively as an analyst using pivot tables. Using pivot tables. You have to do your work, or you have to do your analysis in such a way that it is going to be very attractive and then well explanatory for anybody that is going to be coming across it, right? For anybody that is going to be coming across your work. So, having done this, I think another thing that we need to also adjust is the table headers, the column headers. For instance, now I don't want sum of revenue. I just want it to be in revenue. So I'm going to edit it and then put it as revenue. And then another thing is this is not a row labels. This is a column for product. So I'm going to say, I'm going to clear everything and write products. That is it. So we just answered our first case scenario. Answered our first case scenario. So thank you very much. I'm going to see us in the next case scenario. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So without wasting time, we are going to continue from where we stopped. We've solved our case number 1, where our client asked us to find out which products reaped the most revenue. So let's go to question number 2. Let's go to case number 2. Case number 2 says, who are the top 5 and the bottom 5 customers? Who are the top 5 and the bottom 5 customers? Still, we are going to do this one in a little bit different way. So instead of me to come to my data here and then press my alternate NV or alternate VN, I mean, instead of me to do that, I will just open a new worksheet here like this. I'll open a new worksheet. I can come to row 7 here, and then I will now press my Alt VN, my Alt NV, and then I'll click on table range, and then Excel is going to ask me that where do I, so instead of what I had there, where I had it as a new worksheet, I can just type my data set, that is, what table do we want to use? I want to use my data set. But please, if you are doing this, if you are using this method, please make sure you type correctly the name of your table, word for word, because Excel is sometimes spelling sensitive, right? So after doing that, you will come down here. Excel is asking you that choose where you want your pivot table to be placed. Now, if you click on new worksheet, now I'm going to have a new fresh sheet like this, which means this one is going to be empty, and Excel is going to open sheet number 4 for me. But if I want it on this particular worksheet that I just created newly, all I'm going to do is just to leave it on existing worksheet like this, and then I'll hit on OK. Then you'll see. Then I can just rename this worksheet as well and name it case 2. And then now, going back to the question, who are the top 5 and bottom 5 customers? Now, there are so many ways. There are different options in this particular data set that we can use as top to qualify them. But I think the reasonable one, the reasonable item here, the reasonable column here that we can use to measure our top customers and our bottom customer is the revenue that we generated from each of these customers, right? The revenue that we generated from each customer. And also, you will see that the only thing that is relating to customer that we have on our data set is just the customer ID. It's just the customer ID. We don't have the customer name. It is the customer ID that is standing in place of customer's name for us on this data set, which means we are going to be using our customer ID. And then out of all these columns here, we have the unit cost, the order quantity, the unit price, cost, profit, and revenue. The column that best or that is near best in terms of what we can use to measure our top customers and our bottom customers is revenue. So sometimes critical thinking sometimes is also a very big part of you being a top data analyst, knowing what you need to use, using your discretion, but in the right way, right? In the right way. So please, you need to have a very, very good sense of judgment in this sense. So without wasting time, let me just proceed to the task, and then I'm going to click on my customer ID. And then you will notice that my customer ID, the moment I checked on it, it moved, Excel placed it under values because Excel saw it formatted as a text. If we come back to our data set here, you see that our customer ID is formatted as general instead of it being formatted as a text. So let's see if I format it as, let's format it as a text and see. Let's format it as a text. And then you see that it is currently formatted as a text. So let me go and refresh my data. Let me refresh now. So we'll refresh all. Sorry, so refresh all. So let me go back to my case, and then let me refresh it from here too. I'll refresh it, and then I can let me remove it again, and then let me try putting it back to customer ID. It is still there. So in a case whereby Excel is proving stubborn and still recognizing the column as a text, as a value, I can drag. This is where the second option comes in. I can drag my customer ID and place it to anywhere, any one of these 4 fields that I want it to be. This time around, I want it to be on rows. I want it to be on rows, so I'm going to drop it on rows now, right? So which means this is customer 11,000, customer 11,001, 11,002, and so on and so forth. It is not possible for us to place this customer ID on columns. It won't really make sense like that because it is going to stretch to infinity. You can see it makes absolutely no sense at all. So instead, I'm just going to remove it and place it under my row. I'll place it on my row. So, and then the next column that I'm going to need is the revenue column. Don't forget, I'm going to hit my revenue column, and then you see that these are my customers based on the revenue they generated. And don't forget, the question said we should do the top 5. We should also do the bottom 5. And then from our first case scenario, remember how we did our top 5. It's the same way we are going to be doing our top 5 here also. I'll come to my row labels, and then I'll come to my value filters. I'll come to my top 10. So under my top 10, instead of me having top 10, I'm going to put it to top 5. Top 5 of sum of revenue, and then I'm going to hit OK. It is still not arranged accordingly, right? Because we want it from the largest to the smallest. So what we are going to do again is I'm going to select on it, and I'm going to select everything down, excluding the grand total. And then I'll come to my home. Excuse me. I'll come to my home, and then I'll come to my sorting here under editing, and then I'm going to be sorting from largest to smallest. And then you will see that customer 14157 is my number 1 customer, is my top customer with $530,272 revenue. So I'm going to make it bold. I can make it a little bit big for it to stand out, the customer to stand out. Then you can see this customer is followed by customer 29238 with 326,718, like that. So I can adjust my my headers here, put it to revenue, and put this to revenue, and then for my row labels here, I will clear everything and put it as customers. Customers. Yeah, I think we are good. So let me quickly put the case here. I'm going to say this case 2. Case 2, and the question said, who are the top 5 and bottom 5 customers? Top 5 and bottom 5 customers. And then, so here I can say these are the top 5 customers. Top 5 customers. So now I have gotten my top 5 customers, right? And I also need to calculate to get my bottom 5 customers. So instead of me creating another pivot table to this other side and then going through all those processes, like I said, speed and accuracy sometimes is very, very important as a data analyst, not even sometimes, all the time. So what I'm going to do, instead of me starting all over again, is I'm going to copy, I'm going to select everything here, and I'm going to copy, and I'm going to come here and paste, Control V. And then you will see that I am still having my top 5 customers there. So all I'm going to do, what I need to do is just to come back to my value filters here, then come to my filter, then to my top 10. So I'm going to change my top 10 to my top 5 to my bottom 5 now. I'm going to change them to bottom 5, and then I'm going to click on OK. Then you can see my bottom 5 customers. I have 6 customers here because there are 2 customers that has the same revenue, So that is permissible. And then you can see that we have also sorted them from largest to smallest. Or this time around, we can just sort from smallest to largest because we want to know who is our bottommost customer. So we can just sort from bottom to from largest to smallest, or from smallest to largest this time around. So sort from smallest to largest, and then we can see that customer 29387 is our bottommost customer with the least revenue, with $5 revenue, right? So as well, I can just come here and type my bottom 5 customers. Bottom 5 customers. Voila, I just answered my client's request from my pivot tables. So I can as well put insights too, or to like further explain. I can say insights, and I can say customer, or you can just do that on your own so as not to waste our time. Thank you very much. I'm going to see you in the next video. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So let's go to our case 3. Case 3 says, which country provided the most revenue? This is also straightforward, just like the first case study, case scenario and the second case. So this is also straightforward. We are going to be using our country column, and we are going to be using our revenue column. So I'll use my shortcut. And also, instead of using shortcut this time around, there is another way whereby we can insert a pivot table inside this worksheet. There is a way we can insert pivot table into our worksheet. So I can just come to our insert, right? And come to our insert tab here, and then we'll click on pivot table, and then you click on range, table or range as usual, data set. Data set table is what I want to use. Existing worksheet, yes. And then I'll hit OK. And then you see Excel creates a pivot table for you. So there are 3 ways of doing it. We've explored the 3 ways of importing a pivot table or inserting a pivot table in our Excel worksheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this as usual case number 3. It's 3. And then the question says which country provided the most revenue. So I'm going to come to my fields here, then click on mark my country. You see my country went straight to the rows, and then revenue. And then revenue goes straight to the values. So the question said which country, that is one country. And then if you look at the total countries we have here, we have about 6 countries. So which means we can just leave the whole country, right? We can leave filtering, like we should not bother selecting a filter for this particular question because we have like just 6 here. So that we can easily see the information of the rest. But what we need to do is to sort this revenue from largest to smallest so as to see our top country in terms of revenue. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come to home, and then I'm going to sort from largest to smallest. And then you can see that United States is my top most country in terms of revenue with 27,975,547. So I can just select and make it bolder, and let's increase the font a little bit for it to stand out. So as usual, I will just rename this my revenue. You don't need, because it doesn't make sense for you to leave it as sum of revenue when there is no column on your data set that indicates sum of revenue. You have revenue, so that is what you need to do. And then this one, I'll say countries, country. So I have just answered the question, right? At United States, I can put a small insight here. I'm saying the United States is the country with the most revenue with a total revenue of $27 million, 975,547. And that is it. And then here I can say is 3. The question states that which country provided the most revenue, provided the most revenue. So that is it for case number 3. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So let's move to case number 4. Case number 4 says, sorry, let me just copy this question here, and then let me paste it rather than typing it on my own. So case number 4 says, which gender brought the most revenue? Which gender brought the most revenue? So as usual, I'm saying my alternate NV. My data set. So, which gender brought the most revenue? That is, we are going to be using both customer gender. I'm going to select my customer gender and then my revenue. So, you notice we have female, we have male, and they are almost nearest in terms of the revenue they generated, but we need to sort. Let's just sort for us to know which gender is actually topping the list. So I'll sort from largest to smallest. Then we can see that the male gender makes more patronage to the store compared to the female gender, with male gender dominating with 43,335,409, while the female gender is just 41,935,000. So that's about, let's say, 1.2 million or so difference between them. So that is how to answer this particular question. You can see that using pivot table is very, very easy. It helps us summarize our data. And that is what we need, right? That is what we need. And as a matter of fact, like I said in one of our lessons, that our everyday, your day-to-day activities as an analyst, as a data analyst, is going to demand even this, like the simplest thing, the most difficult task demands the simplest tools, the simplest operations. Our day-to-day operation as an analyst, and I find out over the years, is that even the things that seems difficult only takes like the smallest and the simplest methods for me to use without me complicating things for myself, right? So sometimes it might look simple. Yes, it doesn't mean you should go and now choose the complicated process, right? It doesn't mean you should choose the complicated process. Please always stick to what works for you, what works best for you. So let me quickly put an insight to this. Say, according to the data, the male gender generates the most revenue with a total of 43,335,409, right? So that is that. So let's move to case number 5. Let's move to case number 5, and then let me copy the question. Paste it on case 5 here. Now, I want us to look at this particular case scenario. Which age group is the least profitable? What is the difference from the most profitable? This is like a 2-in-1 question, right? That we want to use a single pivot table to solve. Which age group is the least profitable? Let's look at it one by one. Like I said, understand the question, interpret it, then it's going to help you to know what is being asked of you or what is demanded of you. So, if you look at our data sets, let's go to our data set. You will notice that there is no column that is called age group here. There is no column that's called age group. The nearest column that is similar to age group is customer age, right? It's customer age column. It's our customer age column, which means we need to like create a column that is going to serve as a customer age group column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my data set like I am here, and I'm going to right click and create a new column, and then I'll name the column age group. Yeah, let me put it as age group. Now, from this particular age here, from this particular customer age column here, I need to like categorize all of these customers. The youngest person being 17 years old, then the oldest customer being 87-year-old. So I need to categorize every of my customers to a particular age group. And how do I do that? I can do it in such a way that I can process it in such a way that if I can say that from my age 17 to my age 30, I want to call them youth. And from my age 30 to my age 50, I want to call them adult. And then from my age 51 to the last age, I want to call them old adult, right? I want to call them old adult, which is more like what we have in our, from our if function. So by doing this, let me just create a special, let me create an indicator here for us to understand better. So let's say I want to say that from age 17, from age 17 to age 30, right? I want them to be called young adults, or let me say youth. Let me call them youth. So this one is going to be from age 31 to age 50. I want to call them young adults. Young adults. You can use anything. I'm just using my own discretion just for class purpose. So I can now say 51 upward, or 51 and over. Into 51 and over should be adults. Should be adults. So, which means by the time I create that, by the time I fill my this my column here, this new column of customer age group that I just created, I will have them arranged as such. And one way that we can do something like this is for us to use our if conditional, if logical statement, that is, use our if statement. I'm going to say equals to if. Now, the first logical test is if this my customer age here, if they are less and equals to 30, right? Don't forget, just like we did in our logical test, if the customer is less and equals to 30, my value if true should be, my value if true should be, what do we want to call them? Young or youth, I mean youth. Youth, that's the first one. Then the second one again, would say, instead of me to enter my value if true again, I will say if, again, if. I'm going to be nesting about two ifs together. If my customer age is less or equals to 50, I want you, Excel, to tell me that they are young adults. Now, instead of me to now nest another if function, right? I am going to use my value if first. That is, if Excel cannot find this first statement to be true, cannot find the second statement to be true, then that means Excel should return young or adult for me. That is, if any one of these first two is not correct, Excel should return all the rest for me as adult. So let's see. Voila. And then you can see now that anybody that belongs to age 19, from age, let me see, from let's say age 17 to 30, age 17 to 30, age 17 to 30 here, they are going to be called youth, and then you'll see. And then from age 31, from age 31 to age 50, they are going to be called young adults, right? To age 50, they are going to be called young adults. So from age 51 upward, they are going to be called adults. Just for us to be sure, let me unselect, or let's go and see like age 51 now and see what category they belong to. I can see that they are adults. They are adults, right? So as a matter of fact, we have about 1,634 adults here. So just for clarity purpose, now we can answer our case scenario question, which age group is the least profitable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my pivot table, alternates NV, then my data set. I'll click OK. And then the question says, which age group is the least profitable? So if I come to my data set here, I'll go and find my age group. And then you can see that I don't have age group there because I just created the column. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come to my pivot table analyze tab, and then I'm going to refresh. The moment I refresh and then I go back, then you will see that I now have my age group column. I have my age group column, so I'm going to check it. And then you will see Excel has placed it on that row for me, yes. And then which age group is the least profitable, which means I'm going to be using the profit column. So I'm going to hit my profit. And then you can see from this table here, from this pivot table, that the adults are the least profitable for me with 3,560,243, right? So let me sort it accordingly. So this time around, I'm going to be sorting from smallest to largest. I'm going to be sorting from smallest to largest. So now you can see that the adult age group are the least profitable. They are the least profitable, while the young adults are the most profitable with 17,516,000. So I can quickly put an insight here that the adult age group are the profitable group with just 3,560,243. Sorry, 243. That is it. So other modifications is instead of having sum of profits, you can just come here and then put it as profits, and then my labels to be customer age group, customer age group. So this is for case number 5. This is for case number 5. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Hi everyone. Welcome back to another video. So let's proceed to our case number 6. Case number 6 says, which customer was the most profitable between 2013 and 2016? Now, it is questions like this that is going to make you appreciate separating your dates column. These questions like this that is going to help you appreciate separating your dates column, because now we now have our year separately. Then we have a question that is relating to that regard. So without wasting time, let's go and insert our pivot table from my data set. Then click on OK. And from the question, I'm going to be using customer ID, because customer ID is the only thing that I have closest to customer, and then profit also. And I'm also going to be needing the year 20. I'm going to be needing the year column. I'm going to be needing the year column. Now, answering this kind of question is going to be a little bit dynamic. It's going to be a little bit dynamic because we have about 3 columns to use. We have about 3 columns to use for to answer this particular question. To answer this particular question, so I'm going to use my I'm going to select on my customer ID, which is moved under values, but I want it to be under rows, right? I want it to be under rows. Then the next column that I'm going to be using is profits. Profit. So I'm going to check profit. Profit is where it is supposed to be. Now, talking about the year column now, the year now, let's see where year is going to pop. And then you'll see that year also went under the row field, because year is recognized as a text or a date instead of a value. If not, year will have also moved under values, right? So, but that does not answer the question. The question said, which customer was the most profitable between 2013 and 2016? That is, we are going to be focusing on 2014 and 2015, right? We are going to be focusing on 2014 and 2015. So between 2013 and 2016, we can as well do it in this way. Like, this is what the question said, which customer? That is, we are meant to focus on one single customer, but instead of me focusing on one single customer, I will do like top 5 customers. So just going to come to my row labels here, going to come to my value filters, my top 10. So instead of my top 10, I'm going to be doing top 5, and I will hit OK. And then for me to be able to view them, I'm going to close all this dash here. I'm going to close everything here. And then I should be having a total of just 5 customers as it were. Sorry. Oh, I did top 5, top 10. I want to do top 5. Okay, so okay. Now I have my top 5 customers. And it is still not properly sorted, so I can just select everything here, excluding the grand total, and then I'll sort by largest to smallest. I'm going to be sorting by largest to smallest, so which means I have customer 14157 as my most profitable customer between year 2013 to year 2016. And then I can, if I want to see how this customer performed over these 4 years, right? How this customer performed over the 4 years, I can just come to this place here and then click on the drop down And then in 2011, I can see that the customer generated 25,347. In 2013, they generated 35,000. 2014, 31,000. 2015, 51,000. And 2016, 43,000 for CTC. So this is how this customer stood out over the years. And then this is just what our client asked us to do. This is what this question is all about. So instead of leaving this rest open, we won't leave it open because we don't need them. We can only leave this first one here, this first column here. We can only leave it open. This first customer, I mean, sorry. We can only leave this open. Matter of fact, let's make it stand out a bit. Yeah, so next thing is just to correct this profit and the customers. So for each customer, we can see their performance over the years, right? But in this time around, it is customer 14157 that is the most profitable customer between year 2013 to year 2016. So that is how to solve our case number 6. So let's quickly proceed to case number 7. Let's proceed to case number 7. So let me just check the case scenario. The case scenario says, which customer was the most profitable in 2016 quarter 2? In 2016 quarter 2. And then you will notice that in our data set, let me paste this to case number 7 first. Paste. And then let's go back to our data set. Notice that on our data set, we don't have anything we don't have any column that has to do with quarter, right? We don't have any column that has to do with quarter. Just like we never had any column that has to do with age group. So also we are going to be creating a quarter column. So I'll just put my quarter column beside my year here. So I will insert. Then I'm going to call this quarter. I'm going to call this quarter. Now, we know that 3 months makes a quarter in a year, right? And then we have 4 quarters in a year. We have 4 quarters in a year. So which means we need to use this, either our month here or our date here, to get our quarter, right? We can get it using our month, we can get it using our date column. So what we are So I will just say there is a function in Excel called roundup. Roundup is what we are going to be using, is what we are going to use to get our quarter column. So, and we are going to be extracting our quarter from the same way we extracted our day, month, and year. We are going to be extracting our quarter from our date. So I'm going to say equals to round. We're going to start typing round. You see, we have round down, round up, and M round. So we are going to be focusing on round up. Now, Excel is asking us, what is the number that we want to round up? So this time around, instead of us calling on our number, we are going to now call on our months. Because we know month is what, 3 months is what gives us a quarter in a year. So I'm going to say month. Now the month is asking me, I'm going to call on next my month with my roundup. The next month is now asking me that, what is the serial number? I want to extract my month from my date column. Instead of typing that, let me just type 82. 82. So I'm going to close the bracket. I'm done specifying for my months. So I'm going to say divide this month divided by 3, right? Divided by 3, then comma 0. I'm going to close my bracket. I'm going to hit data. Then you can see that my quarter came out as month, right? It came out as a date too, but I don't want it to be in date. So I will just come to my format here, my number here, then I'll click on format, and then I'll click on custom. Sorry, before I do that, let me come to my data and then put it to general. Sorry. Let me select the whole column and then put it to general. And then you can see that for November is the fourth, it belongs to the fourth quarter, and then you can see every one of it comes out. For March is still in the first quarter. For May is in the second quarter, which means normally I now have my quarter the way, ideally the way it is supposed to be. But I don't want it to be in terms of number like this. I want it to be like when I'm saying quarter 4, I want to see it as Q4 instead of having it as just 4 ordinarily. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the whole column, and then I'm going to come to my number here. Then I'm going to come to custom. I'm going to come to custom, and then I'm going to come here. I'm going to come to this place. And then I'm going to clear this general. I'm going to select this general and clear everything. And then I'm going to type Q hash. Now, what this Q hash means is that I want to see Q beside my 4, right? I want to be seeing my Q beside 4 here. And this hash stands for, is me telling Excel that I want you to retain whatever is in the content of the cells before. Just add this new Q to it, right? That is why I'm having Q and hash. So if I click on OK, then you can see that I have it as quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Let's see if we still do it for that. Let's say we want to have it as QTR, which is the short form of quarter. We want to have it as QTR. Let's see if it's going to work. So I'm going to go back and then let me see if I type QTR. Yeah, it actually works. So we have our quarter. Let me put space. Let me put space. Let's see if Excel is going to permit us. Yes. So we have QTR as our quarter 1 to quarter 4. So we can just filter, and if we want to see every information that belongs to just quarter 2, we can just come to here and then and see that everything we have here is just quarter 2, quarter 2, quarter 2. So this is how to extract your quarter from your table, from your date column, just like we extracted our day, the month, the year. We've extracted our quarter also. So we can now go and answer our case scenario question, which is I think that's page 7. Yeah. So the question said, which customer was the most profitable in 2016 quarter 2, which means we are going to be using the customer table, we are going to be using the profit table, we are going to be using the year table, and then we are going to be using the quarter column. I mean column, not tables, columns. So we are going to be using about 4 columns. So just come here, start pivot table from data sets. Then I'll hit on OK. So if you notice very well, you notice that we don't have quarter here yet. So as usual, we'll just refresh. We'll refresh our data set, and then our quarter should be around now. So we have our quarter now. And then, but we have to start with customer ID first. So we'll move our customer to row. And then the next thing is profit. Next thing is profit. So let's just put year first. So let's put year, just like we did our year there. So as a matter of fact, I'm not sure we even need year, because we know that for all the quarter twos, we are going to be dealing with just 2016, right? We are going to be dealing with just 2016. So how do we do that? So we can just, let's select every item we need first. Let me not jump step. Let's select every item we need first, then profits, and then quarter. Let's select our quarter too. So you can see that the quarter is standing in a place where it does not really belong. So what we are going to do is, I'm going to come to my year. Yeah, I'm going to unselect everything. Then I'm going to focus on just 2016 year. Right? So I'm going to I will drag my quarter from my columns, and then I will drag it to my rows. I'm going to drag it to my rows. Values, no values. So I can now bring my quarter here. Also, I can filter my quarter and focus on just quarter two. So I can bring my quarter down here. Then let me put my here before my quarter. Yeah. So I think it is well arranged now. It is well arranged now. I have customer, the year 2016, and then quarter two. So my profits. So, and then I can just do top 5 as usual. So let me close all the items first. And then I can view it one by one. Right. So let me sort, because we need to sort them by profit. Profit. So into home. So from largest to smallest. So I can see that customer 14157 is the customer with the most profit in 2016 quarter two with 25,546. See how I filtered out every other thing that I don't need and then focus on the things that I need, right? So this is how to solve this particular question here. So I have my profit, then I have my customers. So focus on this customer. So now you can see that my customer 14157 is my most profitable customer in quarter two of year 2016. If I want to view information about the others, I can as well open their drop down with this plus, and then you can see every other information about them. But I need to focus on just one customer because the client only asked us for one customer, which customer was the most profitable. So that is how to solve that particular question. Thank you very much. I'm going to see you in the next video.